Now, this is a very enormous subject for me to tackle, and as per usual, I feel like it's going to be extremely difficult because the subject matter which I'll be discussing is, well, subjective. To give a perfect idiom for today's subject, I can think of one man's trash is another man's treasure. Basically, I'll be asking and giving my own personal answer to a hotly debated topic amongst the furry community. How much is too much for digital artwork? Artwork in the furry subculture is one of the biggest cornerstones of the fandom. It's the main reason of my interest and eventual involvement in not only the community but the fandom as a whole. And no matter how many times I've gotten frustrated at furries and their conventions, and by conventions I don't mean the event, but I mean the way things are usually done or how things usually are amongst furries, I've always seemed to come back to the fandom, if nothing else, for the artistic creativity that some members showcased. And I do like artwork, quite a lot actually, and for someone like me who's a blue-collar worker with mostly traditional values, artwork, it brings out a lot of appreciation in me. However, the business behind self-employed artwork can be sketchy and not regulated, which can cause a lot of discrepancies in one way or another. And let's say, for the sake of argument, that both patron and artist, they have good business ethics. The question now becomes, how much money is the right amount of money for pixels on a screen? Now, this is the part where the whole subjective conversation takes place, and it's not only artwork, but it's things such as movies and cars, music, food and beverages, a wide array of nouns, things. They all have different values and meanings, and putting prices on certain things is extremely difficult. Though with that being said, how much money would you pay for this? Essentially an image file. For extremely obvious reasons, the image is censored, and I think more than half of what you're seeing right now is censored. And yes, I am aware that it is a YCH, meaning if you are a patron, you can request the artist to change the pixels to the predetermined position to fit whatever character you so choose. But anyway, here are the prices. And no, that is not $11.80. There is no decimal point in any of these prices. That is indeed $1,180 for a single Your Character Here slot and a multiple character online digital picture. There is no physical copy. You just get pixels. Very expensive pixels. Not only that, but the price that you pay over $1,000 for it doesn't belong just to you, but it also belongs to everyone else that claimed a slot in this multiple character art piece. Another thing that I find funny is the cheaper slots, in the background. They're still $60 to $100, and you're just this little tiny portrait in this big, gigantic background to the main centerpiece. Now, I just want to pause, just for a second. I imagine this would be the part of the video where a typical YouTuber would be jumping around and screaming in disbelief, but I'm exasperated. I am indeed in disbelief, but I'm not terribly surprised, nor am I even angry about it. I'm also not going to name the artist in this video because I'm sure the person has decent business practices because he or she gets the artwork done in a timely fashion. I have absolutely nothing against the artist in particular, though I'm sure if you spent 1 minute in the fandom, you'll surely know who I'm talking about. Okay, so I was exaggerating just a little bit as I usually do in my videos, and speaking of exaggeration, that reminds me, these prices are in United States dollars. I wonder what that would be in Canadian. Just give me a second here as I look it up. As of September 2018, that would be $1,556 in Canadian. What? Why is our economy so fucking bad? This is why we're not a superpower. Our dollar is like a goddamn peso. This is why gas costs $1.45 per liter. That's over $6 a gallon. What? I know I said I wasn't gonna freak out, but what the hell, man? And you You expect me to pay over $1,500 for an image file, an image that depicts a character of my choosing surrounded by other characters that I may or may not like. And given the nature of the picture, it could very well be paying over $1,500 to have my character become intimately familiar with a character that I may dislike immensely. The finished product that the artist makes is good. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. I follow the artist in question on Furfinity for good reason, because I do happen to like and approve of the finished product that is posted. I'm also very well aware that the stuff posted online is a lower resolution than the finished product given to patrons, but that doesn't really help the price tag in my opinion. However, with that being said, taking a closer look at the artwork through these heavy sensors, it makes me ask one question, where's the fur? It looks like these characters in questions are all wearing latex gimp suits, here's a picture of a wolf. Look at the fur. Here's a picture I commissioned a while back. Look at the fur around the ear, the neck, the cheek. Here's another one I like to use a lot as an avatar on various social media. And you can also notice the fur here too. And here, I'm in my fursuit. My thigh has fur on it, unlike the picture that you see on screen of Judy Hopps. The shiny, latexy look of these furry characters is not a bad design. Again, I think the artwork is good, but the price, it has me scratching my head. More baffling, the artist in question has a huge demand for his or her artwork. All the slots always get taken, and there are some that show discontent for not being quick enough to claim the slots. And by the way, these are not auction prices, these are slots that are claimed outright. There is no change in price. Of course, there is criticism that arises whenever the artist posts, a new YCH image for patrons to claim slots on. And to be honest, the criticism shown is pretty valid. Rarely have I seen any toxicity, but there are always going to be fans who interpret the criticism as a personal attack, and then, as you know, drama ensues. As I said, the biggest thing that perplexes me is the large demand to pay over $1,000 for a portion of a JPEG file. Now, this artist is not the only one that I've encountered which mystifies me. There are numerous of artists on the website for Affinity where I see a YCH available. I click on it, scroll down, and either the starting bid is at several $100s, and or there's a bidding war that racks up the final price to ridiculous proportions. For someone like me, someone who has a comfortable financial life, and someone whose main and sole reason for involving myself in the furry fandom is the artwork, despite all of this, I'm not going to be paying that much for artwork, because there are pieces of artwork that I would really like to have, but there is a certain point where I gotta stop myself and just have a word with myself and ask, is it really worth it? To me, how I gauge artwork is the price, the quality, and the practicality. Can I use it as a badge for when I go to conventions? Can I use it as an avatar? Is it appropriate to be displayed publicly? Is it a physical copy? Is it an original? I mean, I love getting headshots or busts because I can use them as profile pictures. But the only thing that I could do with, say, involving my character in an orgy picture is to keep it locked away on my computer for my own eyes only. For $1,500, I could do a heck of a lot with that. I would love to travel to Europe and visit my friends overseas, friends who I don't have the chance of meeting very often, a chance to develop real life experiences and happiness. Numerous of studies have shown that people are generally happier if they spend their money on experiences and traveling, as opposed to owning possessions. And I believe it. I would love to go to Eurofurence for a year, or take a European tour. I have friends in Germany that I would love to see, and we've been friends for 10 years. But you may be saying, oh, but Marlo, artists need to make money too. And yeah, I know that. Being an artist is definitely a profession, and I absolutely agree with that, but The thing that kind of irks me is the lack of regulation for a universal pricing system. Now, that's never going to be possible, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But there are artists who struggle more than others, and their artwork may or may not be subjectively better than the artists that make 10 times more money. You could suggest that artists should be paid by the hour, but how does one gauge the artist's productivity if they're unsupervised? What's the starting wage for self-employed artists? What about raises? How does one gauge the value of an artist's ability? This is why we have managers. Again, though, there is just absolutely no way of knowing nor telling these sorts of things when A, art is subjective, and B, self-employed artists are generally not managed by a third party, and their productivity can procrastinate severely without supervision. So, it is sorely up to the artist to come up with good business guidelines and to follow them. And when we are talking about furries, yeah, good luck with that. If there's a company or a business that makes such aggressive prices and to have such a large demand for transaction, a part of me has to applaud the successful profit made by said company or artist or whatever. But another part of me is just like, geez, what the fuck is wrong with these people paying hundreds of dollars for a blank white t-shirt that says Supreme on it? A perfectly functioning blank white t-shirt should cost less than $10. What I'm getting at with all this incomprehensible rambling is that I don't necessarily blame the artist for such high prices, despite the fact that I sometimes want a piece but it's just out of my price comfort. It's essentially the people, or rather the furries in this case, that I blame. People don't purchase things just for utility. They also make outlandish purchases for brand recognition, ego boosting, superficiality, essentially just to be cool. And I sometimes buy cool stuff that I don't need. So I'm not immune from this equation either. There's a uniquely personal guideline for what people are willing to spend on frivolous items. At the same time, there's also a personal level of judgment that is passed on to others who spend such money on whatever it is they're buying. This conspicuous consumption manipulates and toys with people who are obsessed with status. Nobody wants to be left out. Nobody wants to be uncool or unpopular, so on and so forth. So this means that not only the wealthy furries, that just sounds like the biggest oxymoron in the existence of all time and space, but also the typically financially struggling furries will do anything to either get that one piece of artwork, or to get that one fursuit by that one particular maker, or go to that one super awesome furry convention that everyone else is going to. Of course, this spawns a vicious cycle of furries competing with one another, throwing away more and more money on frivolous items to one-up the other, all in an effort to continue to distinguish oneself. This is why a lot of online digital artists will hold auctions for pre-made Your Character Here commissions. It's not only a matter of getting the artwork, but it also becomes a matter of outbidding everyone else, to dominate with one's wealth and one's status. It does not matter whether or not the actual status or wealth is known. It only matters to appear that way to the vast majority of those who are watching. And on that bombshell, I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. My Twitter is Marlo Seneca for news, updates, and bloopers. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.